Hey, good evening. Well, as Monday nights go, that was pretty good, huh? The Penguins double up the Habs in Montreal 6-3. This is Penguins Overtime on Pittsburgh Hockey Now and also the National Hockey Now YouTube channel. I'm Matt Gajtka. Thank you so much for joining me. And we do provide the opportunity for you to chime in and be a part of the show. Leave a comment and we will address it. Me, it's just one person here. But talking about the Penguins' big win to close their road trip here, as they had plenty of opportunities to fall by the wayside today. Montreal flexing its youthful muscles there in the second period, especially. It looked like the Habs were going to run away with this one after the Penguins had an early 2-0 lead, and they were dominant in the first period. But instead, a bolt from the blue, a goal from Lars Eller helped them get their balance back at the end of the second period. And then they added on three more in the third. Two of those with Sam Montembeault in goal. He hadn't given up too many for Montreal this season, but Kevin Hayes scores what ends up being the game winner off the rebound of an Erik Karlsson shot. Fourth line goal. Yes, those kinds of things are possible. That was certainly welcomed by the Pens, and then they get a transition goal catching Montreal napping. Chris Letang stepping up and burying an Evgeny Malkin pass. And Gino himself got the empty netter late, so he now has 499 career goals, on the verge of a big-time NHL milestone, and he had 3 points on the game, leading all scorers. So big game for Malkin in that line, and I think up and down the lineup, you could look at a lot of guys and say they certainly contributed to what we saw tonight. So the Penguins bounce back from a bit of a lackluster performance at Toronto on Saturday night. Of course, big stage there. Always a big stage in Montreal, too. I, in fact, watched this one on Amazon Prime Video. Pretty good presentation there with John Forsland and Thomas Hickey and Jody Shelley bringing us the game, and Adnan Verk on the hosting duties. So a different way to watch hockey for sure, as I have the ESPN Plus feed coming at you here from Michigan. And the comments are rolling in. Folks are fired up. Much more joyous post-game, at least to start this show, than it was last time out when I had you after the home opener, the 6-0 loss to the Rangers, which was a total throwaway game. And glad to see the Pens have been able to bounce back since then. They win 2 out of 3 on the road trip. So again, fire off your comments, your questions, your concerns, whatever you might have there, as we're talking about the Penguins able to even their record as they get ready to return home for a short span. They'll have Buffalo and Carolina before they head out on their Western Canada trip a little bit earlier than we're used to seeing. NES Addict says, let's go Pens, and also love all the scoring from different lines. And I think what the Crosby line was the only line that didn't cash in a goal, and relatively quiet night for Sid and his line mates Beauvillier and Brian Rust. But the Malkin line comes through in a big way. Again, Ricard Rakell scoring off a Malkin pass, just like he did in Toronto. Is the Ricard Rakell redemption season underway? We can certainly hope so. And I love to see Jesse Puljujärvi, or excuse me, Jesse Puljujärvi. He's European. The J is a Y. I should know that from my last name. Anyway, he had energy all night long after his healthy scratch against the Maple Leafs on Saturday. So I don't agree with sitting Puljujärvi. I think he's flying. He's skating great. His hips are situated after that double resurfacing surgery he had 2 summers ago. That kind of thing probably takes you a while to really fully come back from. And the young man is moving. He's making plays. Probably could have had more than just the 1 assist on Lars Eller's early goal. Lars Eller scores 2 goals for the Penguins. So in the end, everyone but the first line cashes in. Brandon Rickner says, we totally lose that game last season. Huge bottom 6 scoring. That's what Kyle Dubas was talking about before the season. He wants to see not just a third and fourth line that bunkers in. He wants to see them try to score. He wants to see them have the ability to score. And that's why, no offense to Rutger McGroarty, but I think at this stage of it, Puljujärvi's hot. He's playing well. Keep him in the game. Not that you have to sit McGroarty if you do play Puljujärvi. Even someone like Noel Acciari. I was exchanging a couple of tweets with Bob Grove during the game. And Acciari, whose hit helped free up the puck for Karlsson on the eventual game-winning goal, he's playing much better on the wing. I just think he's better when he's closer to the boards. That's where he does his best work, and he doesn't have to carry the puck that much. And no offense to him, but he is the type of player that wants to get in there and crash and bang, and that's when he's at his most effective. So that's where depth comes into play. You hope that Kevin Hayes can keep it up because he's contributed in this league for a number of teams, and he's trying to prove something too as well. You want guys like that hungry on your bottom two lines so they can maintain that energy that you need to play that style of hockey. And overall, the Pens got a couple of goals in transition, but they continue to do well below the goal line. We're seeing this team transition style-wise, I think, and buying into it, most importantly, that they are not a high-flying team necessarily in terms of counterattacks or rush play. Not that they can't score off that, but they will be well served to try to control territory, as Mike Sullivan would like to say. Also, Michael Bunting had a chance, and yes, Brian Rust had a breakaway look as well. But overall, the Penguins did well against a hot goalie. I mentioned Sam Montembeault. He shut down the Maple Leafs for the Canadiens' first win of the season, and he only gave up one in the Habs' most recent game against the Ottawa Senators, who happened to score 8 goals today. I don't know if you saw that final score, but the the Sens beating the Kings 8-7 in overtime earlier today. Just a little fun note there. So Montembeault, apparently, well, he's not the second coming of Carey Price. We knew that. But the Habs, well, against a lot of teams on a lot of nights, I think they would have won that game. But the Penguins had enough finish, and they had enough grit at the end to hang on to that. And I will tip my cap to Tristan Jarry. He played much better in the third period. Didn't give up that goal that could have made it really interesting late. And it's nice to just have that cruise to the finish line, right? That last minute where you don't have to be hanging on for dear life. Brad says Jussi Puljujärvi shouldn't be scratched. He's looking great. I don't know. Maybe, look, I'll give coaches some leeway early in the season. You probably want to get some guys some ice time. You want to get a McGroarty, I suppose, in the lineup, but it doesn't have to be either or. That was my main contention there, that you don't have to sit Puljujärvi if you're playing McGroarty. I get you want them both on the left or the right side, both playing right wing at the moment. But you do want to get different players in as well. So in the first 10 games, I guess I don't mind sitting guys perhaps randomly, but also this Pens team needs to build some positive feelings, some reinforcement here for what they're trying to do after missing the playoffs back-to-back years. The start is more important for the Penguins than a lot of teams. I'll put it that way. And I think you can say that for every team that misses the playoffs the previous year. So for the Pens not to fall into a 1-3 hole here, or even worse, I guess they weren't that good in the first period against the Red Wings. So they haven't played necessarily a complete game yet where they've been the better team in all 3 periods, but it's the NHL. You're not going to get that much. And also, let's be honest about the talent level of this Penguins team. They're going to have to do what they did tonight, be a little more opportunistic. The shots on goal were pretty even throughout the game until the Habs turned it on a bit late. But in fact, you look at the advanced stats, I hate to call it that, the shooting numbers, basically, your shot attempts, the Penguins had 62% of those, all told. They had 60%, 61% of the scoring chances, and they had 70% of the expected goals. So the Penguins, I think, won the first period. They won the third period, certainly. We know that much, not just talking about goals going in and goals prevented, but when you look at the flow of play. Montreal played a great second, and I think this Habs team is going to be a lot closer to the playoffs this year, if not in a challenging Atlantic division. No doubt. More on that a little bit later, but a quality win for the Penguins on the road. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Facebook as well. I'm able to access all of that, and just getting used to some of the features here on our streaming platform. And yeah, we can throw some comments up there, get some people some love for giving me some content to address here. Michael Thompson, Rax is definitely showing that last year was a fluke. He looks great. I do believe last year was a fluke for Ricard Rakell. Didn't mean to take that down. Sorry about that. He is a proven finisher, and he's not that old yet where you'd expect his shooting percentage to fall off a cliff. He should be a guy you can count on to play with a Malkin or a Crosby and pump in 25 or 30 goals. He's got that quality of a shot. We saw it here. 2 absolute burials of passes from Malkin, one in Toronto off the crossbar. Tonight, up into the top shelf again against Montembeault. Yes, short range, close range shot, but still making no mistake about it, and leaving no doubt that puck went in the back of the net. So Rakell looks like he's skating well, moving well, too. A lot of these guys look fresh. Hey, it's a long offseason when you miss the playoffs, too. 6 months off between competitive environments. And this Penguins team, which is older than most, but not as old as last year on average, some of those older guys appear to be finding their legs after that really pathetic showing in Game 1 against the Rangers. So you throw that one out. I'm definitely willing to throw that one out, all things considered, and a pretty solid opening 10 days of the regular season for the Penguins. Let's go to, let's go to Derek McEachern and Karlsson looking much more comfortable and confident this year. Love when he gets going. Erik Karlsson is the type of player who can just kill you with volume, right? We saw it with the Sharks a couple of years ago. We used to see it with the Senators. The guy is relentless. He's tremendously fit. That's one thing that's impressive to me. Remember that shift at the end of the game tonight when the Habs were zipping the puck around the zone? It was Karlsson who found the energy late in that shift to run over to the boards, pound one of the Habs, and free up the loose puck and help them survive that shift. That's not easy to do when you're a solid 2 minutes into your shift. And so Karlsson, I think, brings it from the cardiovascular standpoint, but we all know about his skills. And I don't think we give him enough credit for putting pucks on net, shooting low like we saw as he pulled that puck off the wall on the right side on the Amazon broadcast just before Kevin Hayes scored, commenting about Karlsson's ability to handle those pucks off the sidewall. It's not as easy as it looks. Sometimes those pucks are spinning, bouncing. You got to handle caroms off not just the wall, but also players that you have to deal with. And Karlsson can take a puck off the wall and improve the condition of that puck, to use a modern hockey coaching term, get it more to the middle of the ice, better shooting angle, and his shot on the game-winning goal by Hayes is the personification of what I'm talking about there. Michael Thompson has our first question here. He says, do you think we should send Beauvillier down to the third line? I'm not on the nicknames quite yet on Beauvillier. They call him Tito, I think, too, right? Anyway, and put DOC back with Sid. That's an option. I don't know if I'd blow things up just quite yet. I feel like I always want to see at least 2 or 3 games with a line combination before I feel like we got to make a change. And yeah, Beauvillier has been with Sid now for 4 games. But DOC has shown a knack to hang with Crosby, and he does have that element of reach that Beauvillier doesn't. As of right now, it's Sid, who's, 5'11", and he might be the tallest guy on that line. I'm not sure how tall Brian Rust is, but it can't be much taller than Sid if it is at all. So you don't have the reach. You don't have the size on that top line. So I could see that from a stylistic standpoint, perhaps making a switch there. Truth Simplified has a good observation. When can you remember a game where Sidney Crosby was maybe the worst performer in the game, credited with 5 giveaways? The Penguins gave the puck away a lot in that second period. I think at one point it was 12-2. Penguins and over the Habs. Over. That's not what you want to be performing well in or piling up the numbers in as the giveaway category. But anyway, the Pens still won is Truth Simplified's point here. And that's great. Last 2 years, it has felt like a fool's errand for the Penguins because they have put so much on the plate of Crosby and to a lesser extent Malkin to carry the team to a victory. And let's be clear about this. It's not the 2012 Sidney Crosby. It's not 25-year-old Sidney Crosby. It's 37-year-old, 38-year-old, 37-year-old Crosby, 38-year-old Malkin. Don't want to age Sid by another year. And yeah, he's still sensational in a lot of ways, but he is not at the level that, say, a Connor McDavid or a Nathan McKinnon is at right now. We can be upfront about that. So for the Penguins to win, to give Sid the support he needs to lead this team, you got to have what they had tonight. And it's not always going to be the case. Lars Zeller is not always going to look like an absolute sniper, but if it happens enough once in a while, you take some of the pressure off. Did Sid even have a point tonight? I'm not sure he did. No, he did not. So that's just 3 points in 4 games. He's behind his usual pace, which we all know is point per game as he goes for that all-time consecutive season record. But tonight, look at the guys who did get on the board. Noel Acciari, an assist. He deflected that Karlsson shot before it hopped over to Hayes. Michael Bunting had an assist. I mentioned the Hayes goal. Puljujärvi, an assist. Rakell gets on the board. Matt Grzelcyk had 2 assists from the blue line. So probably his best game in his 4 as a Penguin to this point. Karlsson, of course, Letang scoring. Letang, barely mentioned him, but he looked like he is, again, rounding into form like a lot of the older guys looked like they were tonight. Pettersson with a point, too. And Tristan Jarry, hot and cold, I will say. And started off, didn't face a single shot for the first 10 minutes, was it? I think it was even over 10 minutes before the Habs put one on net. Thought that first goal he allowed, don't want to call it a killer because it didn't kill them on this night, but it could have been a killer where he can't track the puck. He gets screened out by Juraj Slafkovsky. Big body, big frame. Won't be the last goalie that Slafkovsky screens out. But at the same time, Jarry could have done better to track that puck. He had no chance to make that save. You don't see that much from NHL goalies these days. NHL goalies are a lot better at tracking the puck than they used to be. And Jarry, who was so talented physically, but it just felt fitting that he allowed a goal where he couldn't read the play in the right way. And I had someone comment to me on Twitter saying that Jarry was too tight to Slafkovsky. I don't know enough about goaltending to know how tight you want to be to a potential screen on a point shot coming. I know you want to challenge, but in that case, Jarry was too aggressive for his own good, apparently, and didn't love the third goal either. You love to get a save there when you are in a dogfight like that one, 2-2 in the second period. But at the same time, you could also say it was a good shot, and I think it was, and it was from the left circle with a lot of momentum moving toward the net. But third period, after the Penguins took the lead, Jarry was rock solid. So you got to give him that because I wasn't sure he earned tonight's start. Our Dan Kingerski on Pittsburgh Hockey Now, in fact, reporting that the Penguins are, or they did say that they were going to hand out goaltender ice time this year based upon merit. It wasn't going to be the system where, like we saw last year, where Jarry got the benefit of the doubt for the longest time before Alex Nedeljkovic took over the crease late. It was going to be more like late last season where the team's going to go with the goalie who's getting results. So I think there's some pressure on Jarry, and he did respond in the third period tonight. Derek McEachern asked me if I could give my thoughts on Ryan Graves' performance. I think he was pretty strong tonight in some of those little plays that D have to make, right? And you appreciate it more when you're protecting a late lead, but bumping the puck over to, say, a winger along the boards or your defense partner, making the right choices mentally, just showing some hockey IQ. That's where I think Graves was better. He's still not wowing me with his physical ability. I thought we saw when he was on the other team, when he was with New Jersey, I thought we saw a more dynamic Ryan Graves, but maybe that's just me projecting, looking at his size and what I think is a pretty talented player in a vacuum. It just doesn't come out in games. So today, good to see him not panicking, not throwing pucks away, even though the Penguins did rack up a good amount of giveaways, like I mentioned. Michael Thompson says he's looking the same as last year, in his opinion. I would like to see Graves hang on to some pucks a little bit more. And like I said, show some more confidence. This is an NHL veteran at this point, 5 or 6 years into his career. And I think he still plays like a rookie, still looks really skittish out there at times. This is Penguins overtime. We're about 20 minutes in, maybe about 10 minutes to go in this show. If we do get some more comments, we can stretch it out a little bit longer. I don't want to go much longer than a half an hour, though, because there are 82 games. You don't want to pump up the importance of one too much over the other. This one certainly qualifies as a response game tonight, though. And when you look at overall on the night, the Penguins came out against a young opponent, an opponent with legs, certainly. And boy, Lane Hutson, is he ever fun to watch? As we transition to talking about some of the opposing players who scare me, that might be a regular feature, or opposing players I wish were wearing black and gold. Lane Hutson, already a fan favorite in Montreal, and you can see why. The skating, as my friend Hunter Hodes noted on Twitter, it's Quinn Hughes level skating, which is about as good as it gets on the blue line. Maybe a half step behind a Cale Makar, but right up there with anyone. So Hutson, the rookie, showing off his feet and also his hands. I think he stick handles like Nathan MacKinnon, and he skates like Quinn Hughes. Pretty good combination. Boy, that kid could have had a couple more points tonight. As it stands, Hudson with -4 this evening. He got caught up ice on that 5-3 goal that Letang scored, off of Malkin's pass. And shout out to Matt Grzelcyk as well for the secondary assist there. So Hudson's not perfect, but boy, is he terrifying when he has the puck. A lot of little head fakes. Shows a little Patrick Kane ability too, but from the blue line. So he's a guy we're going to be watching and hopefully not watching the Pens fish the puck out of the back of the net when he's on the ice in the future. So honestly, good job keeping him off the score sheet tonight. Also, Slavkovsky, I mentioned the screen on the Caden Gooley goal in the first period. Also looking dynamic, much more of a fast twitch to his game, I would say, this year in this game compared to last year. And it was considered a bit of a reach for the Habs to take Juraj Slavkovsky as high in the draft as they did. I believe, what was he, second overall or something like that? But he's grown into that frame, and he's finding the speed that he needs to play at to be effective. And that could be scary as well whenever you play Montreal in the next several years. Well, Mark Messier, not a huge fan of his commentary, but on the Amazon broadcast, he said the Habs drafted him not for what he is or what he was as an 18-year-old, but what he will be as a 25-year-old. And we do have to remember that when these players are this young. And in hockey, we expect the 18, 19, 20-year-olds to come out and dominate because we've seen it before, but that is more the exception than the rule. Your Crosbys, your McKinnons, your McDavids, those are outstanding, exceptional, generational players, whatever you want to call them. Slavkovsky might get there, but for the most part, he's following the usual trajectory of a young player, certainly. Thanks for watching live here on our National Hockey Now YouTube and on the Pittsburgh Hockey Now Facebook page. I guess it is a channel when we roll in the videos on it. Pens beat the Habs 6-3. My name is Matt Gajtka. Thank you for joining me on the program. I'll be back with you on Wednesday as well, so we'll knock out a couple of Penguins overtimes and really get this ship rolling a little bit, get it out to sea and see what it can do in that way. Michael Thompson adds on, Letang's skating ability at his age is actually insane. You really can't tell a difference whether he's, 36 compared to 26. Speaking of conditioning, I was raving about Karlsson's conditioning earlier. Letang could be the best conditioned athlete in the NHL, or one of them, and he's in his mid-30s. So you see the work he puts in. If you follow him on social media, the guy's a beast, and he's not afraid to continue to push and push and push. There's an expression in endurance running. You run to the edge, and Letang skates to the edge. Sometimes it gets him in trouble, and we all know that. But at the same time, the Penguins have more benefited than been hurt by that over the years. I think we need to remind ourselves of that. Defensemen, offensive defensemen especially, it goes for Karlsson too. And I've been critical of Karlsson, but we do have to remember that it is about volume, and you can't just remember the last bad play that someone made. I know when we're talking about defensemen, we often look at chances against because they're in a lot of ways the last line of defense in most scenarios before you get to the goaltender. So we're human beings. We're only natural in that way in remembering some of the risks that these players take and how it backfires. But there are so many situations where a Letang or a Karlsson, hopefully, if he plays better this year and continues like the type of play we saw tonight, they get you out of trouble. And there's no room for that on the stat sheet. Even the most advanced stats, you don't have a lot of room for that unless you're talking about, say, the 3-zone project that we've seen online from Corey Schneider, the expert analyst. He breaks down who helps you get out of the zone with possession, who helps you get into the zone with possession. Those are important so-called micro stats, and that's really the only way where you truly see the value of a Chris Letang or an Erik Karlsson, and we're talking about Letang in this case here. For him, it's mostly about his skating and how he can beat a player one-on-one and get the breakout going in that way. A reminder to send stars on Facebook. You can do that to support Pittsburgh Hockey Now. Also, throw us a like and a subscribe on the National Hockey Now YouTube channel. I'm going to scroll on down here and see if I have any more notes that I wanted to relay along to you. Lars Eller thought it was amusing. He had 2 goals tonight. Could have had a third, actually. Jesse Puljujärvi's slap pass late in the second period was to a wide-open Eller, but he just couldn't control it off his skate. For some reason, Lars Eller's 4-goal game as a Canadian back, it might have been in like 2009 or 2010, somewhere in that range. I never looked it up tonight, but he did score 4 goals in that building. So I joked that he was only halfway to his career best output at Les Centre Bell, which for a player of Lars Eller's modest offensive reputation is rather funny, I would say. But hey, Eller's an NHL player too, and he does have a history of being a pretty productive bottom 6 player. And I said last year, if Lars Eller's your 4th line center, it's pretty good. 3rd line, I guess, is okay. But if he decides he wants to go on a heater here, I'm certainly not going to complain about that. I also wanted to just get after it in terms of giving the Penguins some credit for their first period. This was a team that was ready to go, ready to fire, and really jumped on a Habs team that you expected to have quite a push for the Pens early in that one. But it was the Penguins. It was the elderly Pittsburgh Penguins who showed Montreal how to get started fast. And they got a 2-0 lead. They deserved it. Carlson at the post. It could have made it 3-0. And instead, then Goalie beats Jari, who I mentioned didn't read that play well. That's when I thought things were going to go negatively. And of course, the Habs end up tying it on the power play with Slavkovsky. They end up going ahead. But the Penguins were resilient. They persevered, and they showed us something tonight. Michael Thompson wants to know, will Dan Kingerski be live tomorrow since they play on Wednesday? I'm not sure of Dan's plans. Didn't ask him. But Dan is driving all over North America. He went from Toronto to the wee hours on the road to get to Montreal for yesterday's practice. That was Sunday I'm talking about. He's there in Montreal tonight, and he'll be driving back to Pittsburgh. He might carve out some time if he's got something newsy to bring along to you. If not, of course, he'll be on the coverage from PPG Paints Arena on Wednesday as the Penguins try to keep the Sabres struggling, although Buffalo did beat Florida at home a couple of nights ago. So the Sabres are not winless anymore, but I think they're fragile. And if there was ever a time for another great start, it would be Wednesday as the Penguins try to jump above 500 for the first time this season. All right, thank you so much for watching. It was my pleasure to bring you Penguins Overtime. Again, we're going to continue to bring you these shows periodically, mostly during the week. Weekends are tough for me in some ways, but we'll keep you up to date. Just follow the Pittsburgh Hockey Now and National Hockey Now socials, and we'll be able to make sure that we give you a little bit of lead time. Like I'm saying, though, I did mention last week that I was going to do Monday, and I will do Wednesday against the Sabres. So we're about a half an hour. I'm going to sign off just past 10:30 Eastern time. There's my social handle right down there at Matt Gajtka on Facebook, on Twitter/X, on Instagram every once in a while too. And I'm not on TikTok just quite yet. The kids haven't gotten to me to this point, although I may finally cave in somewhere along the line here. Talk to you on Wednesday for more Penguins Overtime. Thank you for joining me.